The wind howled through the jagged peaks, slicing like a blade through the thick fog. A lone figure stumbled forward, his coat torn, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Victor Frankenstein had never felt cold like this before. Not the kind that gnawed through flesh, but the kind that crept into the soul. It had been months since the nightmare began. Months since he had first seen those yellow eyes flicker open in the dim candlelight of his lab. The creature, his creation, had risen from the slab, its breath rattling, its limbs jerking, the grotesque stitches holding its corpse flesh together glistening like wet rope. And then it had turned to look at him, a mistake. That's what it was, a hideous, wretched mistake. Victor had fled, abandoning it like a mother who refuses to claim her deformed child. He thought, no, he prayed, it would die on its own, that the life he had stolen from the grave would wither, shrivel, and collapse back into dust. But it hadn't. It had followed him, through the streets of Ingolstadt, through the frozen forests of Geneva, through his every waking moment. He felt its presence before he ever saw it. The scent of damp earth and decaying flesh would curl through the air, a whisper of its existence. And then the bodies began to appear. First, his brother William, a child strangled in the woods, his small body twisted and lifeless. Then Justine, the girl who raised them, condemned to death for a crime she did not commit. And Victor knew, he knew, that it was coming for him next. He pressed forward through the snow, his heartbeat a hammer against his ribs. The letter had arrived just days ago, a scroll of ink scratched in a trembling hand. Meet me where the world is silent, where even the dead do not speak. And so here he was, in the barren wasteland of the Alps, chasing a spectre of his own making. A sound, a crunch of snow behind him. Victor whirled around, his breath coiling in the frigid air. Silence, and yet something shifted in the shadows between the trees. A shape, too large to be human. Victor, the voice rumbled from the dark, thick and guttural, a voice that belonged to neither man nor beast. Victor's stomach turned to ice. No, you're dead? The creature stepped forward. Its skin, stretched too tight over its towering frame, was a patchwork of the dead. Scarred, broken, monstrous. I am what you made me. Victor took a step back. I never meant for this. You were supposed to die. The creature's mouth twisted into something that might have been a smile. I tried. Do you know what it is to wake in the grave? To feel the worms burrow through your flesh? To listen as the world forgets you? It took another step. I was alone, Victor. And in my solitude, I learned. A flicker of movement. Something shifting in the periphery. Victor's pulse pounded in his throat. I watched them. The creature gestured to the trees, to the unseen. The ones who came before me, the ones who never rose. The grave. Victor had stolen from it, desecrated it, plundered the stillness of death to create life. But he had not been the first to disturb their slumber. And now, he was not alone. From the shadows they came, eyes glistening in the dim light, hollow faces, torn hands, mouths sewn shut, the remnants of experiments abandoned, of failures left to rot in shallow graves. Victor's breath hitched. No, this isn't possible. You never buried your sins, Victor, the creature murmured. You only left them behind. The ground trembled beneath him. The dead shifted, their forms swaying like marionettes without strings. And then, a whisper. Come with us. Victor screamed. He ran, his limbs numb with terror, stumbling through the snow as the voices clawed at his mind. He ran as the creature, his first, his greatest mistake, watched in silence, its golden eyes unreadable. He ran because the dead do not sleep, and the past does not forget. And in the howling wind of the frozen night, Victor Frankenstein realized the truth. He had never been the master of life. He had only ever been its servant. The storm closed in around him, the swirling white swallowing his form as he disappeared into the abyss. Somewhere in the dark, the creature watched, waiting, knowing that no man escapes his ghosts forever. And when the snow settled, the only footprints left in the ice belonged to something that should have never lived.